This is your captain speaking. We are making our descent into Las Vegas McCarran Airport. On behalf of our crew, we'd like to thank you for flying MMA Junkie Airlines. Now please fasten your seatbelts and put your tray tables in your upright position because the descent is going to be a little bit bumpy.
Alright, Junkie Nation, it's time to roll, baby, on MMA Junkie Radio with Gorgeous George and Goes. This is what we doing while we do it, baby. All night long, we rollin'! Yes!
The MMA Junkie Radio revolution is upon us.
Can you dig it?
There's no escape. No escape. Through the vast frontier of cyberspace and through a sea of stars in outer space.
One small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
We've solidified our combat communication stranglehold.
We are controlling transmission.
With the use of MMA Junkie Radio and SiriusXM satellite radio technology. MMA Junkie Radio. Commence transmission. Live from MMA Junkie Radio HQ in the fight capital of the world, Las Vegas, Nevada. Here are your hosts, Gorgeous George and Goes.
From the Mandalay Bay Casino in Las Vegas and the MB Studios in Costa Mesa, the MMA Junkie Radio Show. I'm your host, Gorgeous George. With me as always is the devious and dastardly Goes, our co-host back east handling the producing duty today. It's going to be Sam. What's up, guys? How you doing?
Doing all right. I am finally back here in Las Vegas, but to get here, I had to take one of the world's worst flights, George. Dude.
Oh, man, what happened?
All right. I get on the plane. Everything's fine. I mean, it got delayed, but in my career of flying, there hasn't been very many times where a flight's been delayed, so I've been good there. I get on the plane. There's a guy that's next to me, and he's never flown before in his life, so he's freaking out. He picked the worst flight for it to be his first because, I mean, there was some nasty turbulence. And then when we landed, and this is probably more on me, I had my headphones on, so I didn't even know we were landing. I didn't feel the plane coming down or nothing, but when he hit, I swear he smacked down onto the ground, onto the pavement. And when he did that, it fishtailed the plane. Like it almost felt like it was about to spin. And then finally, everybody's kind of freaking out. But it was enough where sitting down, it jolted me a little bit into the aisle. I know if somebody was standing up, they would have flown. But then he just cracked some joke like, "Whoa there, big fella," on the intercom, and nobody laughed at that shit. Everybody was freaked out. But dude, I thought I was toast, man. I really did. And the guy that flew for the first time, he was not feeling it.
Did you think that the plane was going to slide or blow up? I mean, I think you just thought it was going to slide, right? You had already landed safely. That's the key, is to be on the ground.
Yeah, but like I said, I didn't even know we were landing. So to me, it was like this plane's coming apart. Then when I realized, okay, we're on the ground, then I was like, yeah, I think we're okay, but I don't know. But because, the plane is still going really, really fast, and he's trying to slow it down. Like, you could tell it's just not a normal landing. But I think for me it was extra scary because I didn't know we were landing. So I just feel a giant jolt.
What happened to the guy next to you? What was he fainted by then?
Dude, he was like, does this happen all the time? Like he did not like it one bit. And he said he's considering driving back to LA.
That's funny. Well, I'm glad you guys are all safe. Sam, where do you come from, man? This is the first time you've been on our show.
I come from Jamaica, Queens, New York, born and bred and raised.
All right. And what other show were you with before us?
I was on Bleacher Report Radio, the now defunct Bleacher Report Radio, and I did the BR Afternoon Drive first, and then slid over to the mornings and did the BR Morning Buzz.
So we're going to talk combat sports today. Do you know anything about MMA, boxing, wrestling?
All about all three, actually, all of the above. So grew up wrestling, grew up into boxing, and then transitioned into MMA, so I'm here.
And more importantly, you grew up in the mean streets of New York, right? Where they get down if somebody gives you a dirty look.
A dirty look, a dirty stare, a dirty spit on your shoes, anything.
I think they get down if you give them a smile. That's what I've heard.
Yeah, I trust nobody who smells too much. I don't trust them.
Is that a New York thing? Like, instead of a push, you spit on the shoes? That initiates confrontations?
I have spat on somebody's shoes, yes.
I did not know that. I've never heard of that. I've heard of spitting in someone's face, but spitting on someone's shoes, yeah, I guess that would piss someone off. All right. Well, welcome, man. Thanks for coming on board.
Happy to be here. Appreciate it.
George.
All right.
You going to drop the ball like that? Don't you want to know why he spit on someone's shoes?
I was waiting.
Yeah, well, let's get to it. Okay, let's get to it. Well, why did you spit on someone's shoes? But listen, Sam, don't play around, all right? Give us details. Start from the beginning. Was this a long-time feud? Was this just it happened at that moment or what?
It was really random. I was with my ex-girlfriend at the time, and I was taking her home on the subway, and a guy just happened to be looking at her a little bit too much. She noticed it. I noticed it. So when it was our stop to get off, the guy also got off. So I approached him, asked him why he was staring. He said that I wasn't going to do nothing about him staring. Ooh. So he had on some very nice, shiny Air Jordans on. I believe he had on the 11s at the time. They were very nice and clean. So instead of punching him in the face because there were cops on the subway platform, so I didn't want to catch a charge. I loved my girl, but not that much.
She's your ex-girl at that point, too.
Right. So I decided to spit on his shoes because I knew that would hurt him more than me actually punching him and catching a case for my then ex-girlfriend.
Right. Nice hucked up loogie
on
his shoes?
Mucus, everything. I tried to bring everything from my intestines out in that loogie.
And what did he do?
And what did he do about it?
There was pushing and shoving, but then more or less it was just more of, at that point, people came and it was causing a scene. Some F-bombs were dropped, S-bombs were dropped. But, yeah, in the end, I mean, he didn't lay a scratch on me. I mean, there was a quick jab. I gave him a little quick jab to his face. It did connect, not flush, but it did connect. And then that was pretty much it. It was just pushing and shoving and people pulling us apart.
Sam,
so
how old are you?
One way with the girl, and he went in another direction, right? And
the girl.
At that point.
The girl always goes with me. Yeah.
Sam, how old are you?
I just turned 36.
Do you remember the movie Bad Boys with Isai Morales and Sean Penn?
Yes, vaguely.
All right, here's what I've always wanted to do, guys. I like to spit on the shoes. That's a gangster move. I like that. I don't know why. The shoes would piss me off. But I've always wanted to pick a booger and just put it on someone the way Viking did in that dude's food. I've always wanted to do that. I don't know what happens from that point on, but I think that whoever you do that to thinks, I just don't want a piece of this. This guy's just weird. On top of everything, he's weird. I'm not fucking with this dude. But I've always wanted to do it. I'm not a big booger guy, but what do you think? Would you guys ever do that move? Just a big booger and put it on his chest.
Yeah. Anything crazy, I don't mess with it. That's why I don't deal with the homeless on the subway or anywhere else because, you know, you look at them the wrong way or they catch you looking at them and then it's a problem. So crazy to me is the toughest thing you will ever want to face. So I agree with the booger.
Georgie, team booger?
For one goes, you got to make sure you got one. And if you have one, then the question is, why didn't you pick it earlier? But I think that's a G move. I think if somebody did it to me, I'd be like, oh, man. I'm either coming back over the top or you're right. I'm going to assume this guy's just, you know, some maniac, a Unabomber or something, and I just need to, you know, do an about face and head in the other direction. So it might work.
Cool.
All right. So, guys, let me toss out some news stories.
All right.
I'll also toss out the number to call in. It's 866-522-2846 if you want to join in on the discussion. And we have 3 guests coming your way. They're 30 minutes apart. Elias Theodorou stopping by at 1:30 p.m. Eastern, 10:30 a.m. Pacific. Laura Sanko, 2 p.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. Pacific. And then we'll finish up the show with Cody Bollinger at 2:30 p.m. Eastern, 11:30 a.m. Pacific. So there's lots of pockets in there for you all to call in. I'm going to throw out some topics here, get Goz's opinion, and, you know, share mine and, you know, get the show going here. That was a good story, though, Sam. Thank you. There's a lot out there, Goz. It's a unique week. There's just stories going in different directions. But I guess one of the big ones is Ronda Rousey not letting too much time go by, approximately 11, 12 days since she got her ass whooped by Amanda Nunes, and she has already put out a statement through Instagram basically hinting that she's hit rock bottom. Not hinting, but stating that she's hit rock bottom, but that she may be sticking around the sport. Your thoughts?
Well, I hope so. I think it's good for the sport that she's there. She's brought a lot of eyes onto the sport, and like we said, I mean, there's only really, granted, the last 2 fights for her have not looked very well, but put that aside, there's not a lot of people in that division that can beat her. I'm sure there's a lot of people that could give her a good run for her money, but she's still a top athlete in that sport, in that division. So I'd like to see her come back. I honestly didn't think we would see her come back. I mean, it's a lot of money that she's sitting on. It seems like these ups and downs are just terrible for her. She's going to have to make a decision on what she's going to do with her camp. Something has to be tweaked here. And I don't feel like the things that need to be tweaked are things that just get fixed overnight. They're kind of long-term adjustments that take time. It's going to take time for her to heal. It's going to take time for her to make these adjustments. So I think if we do see her back, it's not going to be for a while, guys.
Yeah, and I will say that I think the change in camp would be huge, because if she comes back but everything stays the same, I don't think the expectations are going to be high, and I also think the press that comes, the coverage that comes with her comeback is going to be towards that negative side, and it affects her so much. So I'm hoping that maybe she gives another camp, another coach, a look. Just get a look. Immerse yourself for a week or two and just see. That's usually all it takes before a smart athlete can go, well, wait a minute, hold on a second. I'm progressing over here. I'm learning a lot over here. I'm realizing there's a lot I don't know over here, and then they either merge the camps or a move is made. So what she said was, and so rock bottom became the solid foundation on which I rebuilt my life, by J.K. Rowling. That was on her Instagram yesterday. Lots of responses towards that. Yesterday, we also have a fight booking official now. I think we kind of connected dots between having both guests on, Tyrone Woodley and Stephen Thompson. But later that day, it became official. They will headline UFC 209 on March 4th in Las Vegas. No Diaz brother has yet signed on to the 209 card, but I'm hoping one or both do.
God, the ball would be dropped if they didn't. This matchup, I mean, I'm all for it. I'll watch it. I'm down. It was a good fight the first time, but the first fight didn't leave me wanting more. In other words, I look at it this way. I look at it as Stephen Wonderboy Thompson had his shot at the champion. He didn't win and he didn't lose, but he had his shot. And now you got to go back in the line, not to the back of the line, but just back in the line, and someone else gets a shot at him, right? Because at the end of the day, he wasn't able to beat the champ, and that's what matters. So I would have liked to see a fresh matchup. I like fresh matchups. However, this is a good fight, and we'll all be pumped up for it. But really, I mean, if they go at it and it's a great fight, I mean, what are we gonna do? Run it a third time? I mean, I don't know. It seems like Damian Maia was there. I thought maybe he should be the guy to get the matchup. He must be losing his mind right now, going crazy, figuring out what he's got to do. But I mean, I'll tune in, but I just didn't feel like it was the matchup that needed to be made. How about you, George?
I agree. I agree with everything you said. I think the Maia matchup could have been made for March 4th. And I think Thompson would have got his rematch in maybe June or July, because it seems like Woodley really wants to step on the gas after having 18 months off. And in between that time, Thompson could have either taken a fight on the same card or maybe just sat out for 6 months. That wouldn't have been the end of the world. After a 5-round war, time off sometimes is one of the best things that can come your way. Also on that fight card is Mark Hunt versus Alistair Overeem, Mirsad Bektik versus Darren Elkins, Todd Duffy versus Mark Godbeer, David Timur versus Lando Venata, and Paul Craig versus Tyson Pedro. So you have your headliner, and you have what's probably a co-main in Overeem and Hunt. And then from then on, I see some good matchups, but I'd like to see more. In Las Vegas, they charge a couple extra $100 per ticket, so usually you want to make it worth everybody's time and efforts, because that how Sin City is, man. You can blow through $5,000 if you're not careful. Also, Tony Ferguson and Khabib Nurmagomedov. I really think this thing's down to the wire and it's going to happen. Ferguson was going to be on today's show, but because there's still negotiations going on, I think maybe his camp wanted to talk about the fight that's being made rather than all the jibber-jabber going back and forth. Khabib's latest is he says he trains with bears, lions, gorillas all my life. This is why Conor, Ferguson, all those bums don't want to fight me. Tony Ferguson says, yeah, I'm sure they tied a stake to you when you were a wee kid so the animals would play with you too. Friendly fire there between those two on social media. Khabib says Tony wants this money up front because not confident he's going to win. He wants to cash out because he knows I will smash him. Could be him alluding to that $200K that he offered Tony Ferguson, which Tony declined. But since then, maybe he said, yeah, I'll take it up front, which I would too. Tony Ferguson fires back. He says, why you mad, bro? Because you know I'm a much better fighter. You can't box for shit. Keep practicing, hashtag, he told him. So I really feel, goes like this thing will be done by this week. And that's that type of fight that I think belongs on a UFC 209 card. It'd be probably now your co-main event if they move the heavies down to the feature bout or vice versa. I don't care, but I think it would really add to that card.
It's so weird because it's the fight that a lot of people have been waiting for and we want to see happen. But, I mean, really, when you break it down, in normal circumstances, this is a fight we wouldn't want to see because you're taking two guys that you would love to see. They're two different styles. You'd like to see them match up against the champion. In normal situations, the UFC would avoid this matchup and kind of put things together a little differently so that they could both possibly have a matchup. Instead, one of these guys is going to pick the other guy off, and that kind of sucks, but it's a great matchup, and I can't wait to watch it.
Meryl Streep still in the news. Two promoters from the two biggest organizations responded. Dana White, of course, came at her kind of like a pushback, whereas Scott Coker went the route of just, and talking to Meryl Streep with respect and also inviting her to the upcoming Bellator 170 card that's coming up here with Tito Ortiz and Chael Sonnen. So interesting. Other fighters, of course, also chimed in on this topic, including our guest, Cody Bollinger. We'll ask him about that, but it didn't slow down yesterday, Goes. A lot of people really took exception to her comments at the Golden Globes.
I think she just misspoke. I honestly don't think she's trying to be an asshole. I think she's just uninformed. And we've seen this within combat sports, right? If you go to boxing, how long has Jim Lampley really hated mixed martial arts? And now it seems like maybe he's coming along here and there. He'll put something out that he did watch a fight or whatever. So it does take a while to get used to the sport. But I'm not the type of guy that's just going to shit on it, on something else like that. I just think she needs to be more responsible with what comes out of her mouth.
Some other news, Jimmy Rivera is officially out of the UFC 103 card. He will not be fighting Marlon Vera. He now wants ex-champ Dominic Cruz, and Dominic Cruz apparently has turned down a rematch with Cody Garbrandt. So I don't know if Cruz wants someone else or if he just wants time off. And I'm not sure Rivera can make those kinds of pleas, and call his shots like that. I think he should have just taken the fight. Forget about this bully thing. I mean, bigger underdogs have come in and pulled the upset. I think you go, you fight, you get paid, and you just continue picking up traction within the division. I think he played his hand wrong there personally. Also, the ninth annual Fighters Only World MMA Awards. The nominations have started over at worldmmaawards.com. And the event will take place on March 2nd, a black tie, red carpet event at the Venetian Theater in Las Vegas. MMA Junkie is nominated for MMA Media Source of the Year. We'd love to have your vote there. Also, our Ben Folks has been nominated for Journalist of the Year, and I'm sure he would appreciate your vote there. Our website and Ben Folks work hard throughout the year, and again, if you feel like we're the best, we say go out there and vote. Regardless of who you vote for, go out there and vote. But if you really feel it's us, we could really use your vote. Liam McGeary trying to get back into that contender status. He dropped his title to Phil Davis recently, and now he's back versus Chris Fields at Bellator 173 on February 24th. This will be in Northern Ireland in Belfast. Also, if you want to make reader predictions for UFC Fight Night 103 in Phoenix, we've updated the card because there's a change to the lineup. As I mentioned, Rivera's out. That fight card's been replaced. So go in there, and if you want to participate just like the staff does, this is the first event of the year, might as well go in there and get a fair start like everyone else. The Thrill and Agony video of UFC 207, that was pretty legit. I enjoyed watching it. I watched it a few times, checking all the different reactions, all the different angles, and the UFC always does a good job with that. Apparently, Goes, if you go on UFC Fight Pass, you can see more. Are you a big fan of those?
I like them. I thought it was really cool. I mean, you see the reaction of obviously of the fighters, but the corners, and not just the corners, you see the reactions of the family, what happens when they go through the curtains when they're done. And I think it's really interesting, man. I really get. But you know what? Maybe I'm a little bit of a hypocrite because there is. I mean, I guess they didn't do it on this one, but we saw Amanda Nunes when she walked through the curtain, and she was screaming, you know, this is the end of Ronda, blah blah blah. They didn't show. I haven't seen the full version on Fight Pass, so I don't know if they showed anything on Ronda's side. But I've often said on this show, so I don't want to sound like a hypocrite, that I feel like the fighters, man, they were just in a war. Like, they need, just give them 5-10 minutes to just decompress. Because can you imagine, George, just like your biggest failure in life being in front of millions of people and your reaction to it? I mean, it just seems a little inhuman, you know. I think we've seen fighters before kick chairs or just break down and cry, and I feel like they've earned that moment to just have that with them and their team. Just give them 5-10 minutes or something and then do it. But at the same time,
show the winners and then come back 5 minutes later and show the losers?
Maybe, yeah. I mean, I just feel like they've earned that privacy, you know, of just give them 5-10 minutes or something. I mean, I get it. We want to see everything, and this is the digital world and all that. But I don't know. It's a different sport, man, and I think they deserve that.
Well, I would say if the camera's on, if you tell them to turn it off, they should respect it. But
yeah, I'm game for that.
I kind of want to see it. So if the fighters in their camp can be reminded that, hey, look, the cameras are on, and obviously, you know, you give us a signal and it's off, great. All right, let's take a couple quick calls, and then I'll get to some more headlines afterwards. Want to make sure we take our break on time and then come back with Elias Theodorou leading things off at 1:30 p.m. Eastern. A couple are on hold. Looks like Mongoose Mike in Cali, Marco in Waco. So let's start off with Mongoose Mike in Cali. What's up, brother?
Yo, what's up, guys? What's going on? Long time no hear.
Yeah, long time. What's up?
Nothing. George, hey, sorry about the Niners, man. I kind of even rooted for them because they were the underdogs. So, you know, maybe next year I'll root for them again. Anyway.
Yeah, you were awful.
No, that's cool, man. It's all good, you know what I mean? NFL season rocks. It's over almost, but, you know, we got to enjoy the rest. Anyway, Meryl Streep, she wants to be the next Betty White. You know, back in the year 1919 when she was young, somebody called her a rebel and an underdog, and I want to call out the MMA community right now. You guys are young. You guys are rebels. I want to see 2017 be the year for you guys. I'm calling you out. 145, my boy, Gilbert Melendez. 145 weight is open for you. I want you to dominate 145. 155. What do you guys think about Conor versus Nick Diaz at a 160 catch weight?
Jesus Christ, man! If they were to put that together,
Nick Diaz has gotten. Yeah, he hasn't gotten down to 160 in a while, so he's gonna do 170 and that's it. But listen, man, at this point with Conor having not defended his belt, that's my biggest criticism towards him. Is you're a great fighter. There's no doubt about it. You test yourself. You fight often. All kudos to you, but I really want to see that once you grab the titles, defend them. He doesn't have the 45-pound strap anymore, so now he should defend the 55-pound strap at 55, and then at least give us one or two for crying. You know, like Ferguson and Khabib should be fighting for titles, not each other. So
yeah, they should just be fighting serious, each other, man.
Then at least defend against one of them. And I just know that the Diaz fight is too lucrative. They can't get away from that one, so that one will happen. So give us 2 title defenses, and then I guess we'll talk money fights again.
Right. Hey, is it just me, or is Michael Bisping the worst champion ever? You know, he's trying to bully the welterweights around, and he's not even looking at the 185ers, but real animals. What's up with that? What do you guys think about that?
Well, you're right. He did want to fight GSP, so that one, you're right. To be fair, though, Woodley brought up to him the one with involving him, but I think he's pretty much locked into Romero at this point. Sometime probably in the next couple months, and with only Woodley being signed as a champion to fight, all these other champions, I think they're going to get fight booking soon. We got to move on, though, Mike. Thanks for calling in. Let's do Marco from Waco real fast. What's up, Marco?
Marco from Waco. ¿Qué pasa, Autos?
What's up?
Hey, Clemson, Alabama. What a freaking game yesterday, man. That fourth quarter was crazy. Holy crap. Go, Clemson.
Yeah, those are two big defensive teams, but the offenses is what put on the show towards the end.
Especially the last second touchdown, man. That was an awesome game. Hey,
kind of a pick play there, but yeah, if they don't call it, then you're all right.
Everybody does it.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, you guys talking about the Goodley Wonderboy rematch, man. And I think for WME and for the UFC, that is a fight that makes sense, man. Because as much as we, the hardcores, like Damian Maia, man, he's hardly marketable, man. And you've seen Wonderboy on the desk on Fox. You see Goodley on the desk on Fox. They're really getting behind these two guys, and the fight was a really good fight. You don't see them in MMA anywhere, man. I mean, we know he's an ace on jiu-jitsu, but I think they're hoping that somebody can take him out so they don't have to deal with that problem no more. But, hey, I'm going to enjoy the fight and, enjoy it for what it's worth. We'll let you guys catch you guys next time.
All right, see you, Marco. You said it, man. Once the fight's made, we just got to sit back and enjoy it. But I think that has hurt Maia over the years is, there's a solid skill set there in jiu-jitsu. And when he pretzels up some of the best fighters in the world, you sit there and you stand up and you applaud and you're like, wow, okay, that's great. But does it move needles? I don't think WME and IMG think so. All right, folks, we're going to take our first break. You're listening to MMA Junkie Radio on Sirius XM Rush 93. When we come back, we'll talk to Elias Theodorou, UFC middleweight, who's got a fight coming up here in a few weeks. And he'll be matched up against Cesar Ferreira. We'll see what he's all about when we come back.
You know that scene in Star Wars where Darth Vader tells Luke he's his father? What if I walked in right after with my voice and was like, I'm your Uncle Walter. Can I get a lift home? That'd be crazy, right? Anyway, here George and goes.
All right, we're back. Trying to get Elias Theodorou on the line. Sam, check out the chat there if you get a chance. And while you link up with Elias, I'll throw out a couple more bits of news that I saw out there that I wanted to get Go's thoughts on.
Hey, can I chime in on one thing real quick?
Sure, yeah.
Just going back to Damian Maia, and I see your points on, if you were just a little bit more exciting, maybe it'd be easier to promote you. But isn't it a double-edged sword where if he tries to do that and he gets knocked out, what's the first thing everyone's going to say?
But like he did against Marquardt years ago, remember?
Mm-hmm. Hey, buddy, aren't you a jiu-jitsu expert? Why aren't you trying to take the fight to the ground? It's a double-edged sword, man. I don't know that he has the skills to find that balance. I mean, I think he's just got to go with what he knows. That it was a nice adjustment, adding the wrestling, but I'm not so sure he should just stand and bang
just
either.
Terrible luck. It ended in a draw. If Woodley wins, it's Woodley versus Maia. If Thompson wins, it's Thompson versus Maia, because I don't think Woodley would have gotten off his first title defense. I don't think he would have gotten that rematch. Usually when you defend for a while and it's a good fight, they'll say, "Oh, let's run it back." But in that case, it was a draw. It was the worst possible, probably the only thing that could have happened. And other than a barn burner, split decision controversy with the champ losing, maybe, especially if they both just poured their hearts out. Okay, you got to run it back. But that certainly didn't happen in the 5th round. And we had a draw, and that was it. So I don't know, man. Maia's age is creeping up, and I think he's pretty popular. I think a lot of people have given him a lot of love. Maybe they even could have had a title fight in Brazil. Mm-hmm. But it didn't happen. It's done.
I think this is the advice coming from two guys that have been involved in the sport for a very long time. We know the way things work, but I'm not so sure that would be the advice coming from a coach, right?
Mm-hmm. The UFC ditched plans for March 3rd event in Las Vegas on the eve of UFC 209. That would have been nice to have a fight night the night before. In fact, there would have been a 1-2-3 punch with the World MMA Awards. Then that fight night, then UFC 209, it would have been like a mini international fight week, but they decided to not go through with that. And again, I think it has to do with a lot of stars were used towards the end of 2016. That, coupled with some injuries, they just exhausted the names, the powerhouse names that you use to sell tickets, the superstars.
Yeah,
so I think they'd rather just scrap that and rally and start and come strong in the second quarter of 2017.
Woodley and Wonderboy, that's a matchup. That's the first title matchup that's been signed. When do you ever see the champions not signed to fight? I mean, it's pretty remarkable, right?
Mm-hmm. Also, we'll be talking to Laura Sanko. Invicta FC 21 is coming up. They have an interim title fight at 145 pounds. I'm not sure what I said there. Yeah, 145 pounds. And it's Invicta FC 21. It takes place on January 14th, so that's this Saturday, between Megan Anderson and Charmaine Tweet. Now, aside from that, we have Holly Holm and Jermaine Di Randami, and they're doing it at UFC 208 in Brooklyn for the inaugural UFC featherweight title. And lastly, Bellator 174 has Marloes Coenen and Julia Budd. Title fight there, 145 pounds. So how about that, man? 45s, is there enough of them out there where 3 leading organizations are crowning women or a champions defending? And it's all happening, here in the early part of 2017. And this is the division we've said we don't feel like there's enough quality fighters out there. The ones I named are pretty good fighters. Mm-hmm. But what do you think about that, Goes? Just a lot of big spotlight on 145 pounds.
I think it's interesting. And the higher you go up in the weight, I believe that, obviously these girls are going to hit harder. You may see more knockouts on a card. So maybe they don't have as big a pool as you need right now, but now that it's here, I mean, it just got announced. So I mean, I think people will start to invest in trying to make that weight and trying to see if they can compete at that weight. And I think it'll only be a matter of time before this division will start working a little bit better. The higher you go, I think the easier it'll start to get. It's the reverse, and you look at 125s and how long it took to get that pool that we have now. I think this division will be okay, though.
Yeah, I hear you there. Well, we'll talk a little bit more with Laura Sanko about that division, about their headline bout at Invicta FC 21. With Cody Bollinger, it's all about, his fight versus Henry Corrales and, of course, the Bellator 170 card in L.A., which Goz and I decided we are going to attend. Hopefully we run into you down there, anybody that's attending. And now we also have been talking about some of these UFC fight cards coming up. Remember, the one this weekend is on a Sunday, not a Saturday, not a Friday. It's on a Sunday. So you'll be able to take in your football. It's what do we have? Not conference championships, but divisional championships. I think this is called a divisional round. So there's some big games coming up this weekend, and you don't want that to interfere with your MMA if you love both sports. And I've met a lot of MMA fans that are fans of football and vice versa. So that's the first thing I think about. But you'll be safe. You'll be safe. You'll be able to see it all. So it's going to be a fun Sunday afternoon to just chill on the couch. All right, we got our guest ready to go. Elias Theodorou. He will be mixing it up in Nova Scotia, in Halifax, Nova Scotia, Canada, against Cesar Ferreira. Now, this is the card that's headlined by Junior Dos Santos and Stefan Struve. It takes place on February 19th at the Scotiabank Center. And now joining us is Elias Theodorou. What's up, Elias? How you doing?
I'm doing fantastic, man. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. Welcome back to MMA Junkie Radio. You're on with George and Goz. Elias, so check this out, man. You've done well with your career, 12-1 overall, 4-1 in the UFC. We met you in our studio at Mandalay Bay, and like I told you that day, I think you have a good potential in the sport because you can fight and you're very charismatic, but I want to see you on pay-per-views. I want to see you on big Fox cards. What's happening here that somehow you still keep getting pushed on Fox Sports 1? Not that there's anything wrong with that, but I think you've paid your dues there.
Well, bless your heart. And I agree, but at the same time, I'm excited to be back in Halifax. This will be my third time fighting there. Once before with the UFC and another time with a regional MMA promotion. With me, I'm excited for Cesar, ready to kick some ass and do what I usually do. But with that being said, obviously a win with this guy will get me in that direction. So, baby steps, and I'm looking for the long run. Like I mentioned before, I'm only 28, and the median age in my weight class is 32.
There you go. All right. Cesar Ferreira, he can bring the best out of anyone. That guy goes out there, pours it all out, win or lose, he goes hard. But one glaring thing that I see on his record is those 4 knockouts, and 3 of them have been within the last 2.5 years. Does that stand out the same to you? Do you feel the same way where not only is the chin more susceptible, but I think you mentally think about it as well, thereby slowing down your offense. So I think that's a point of attack for a guy like yourself.
110%. And throwing in the fact this will be my 5th southpaw in the UFC. So all but one of my fights in the UFC have been southpaws, which there's certain tells that I need to, not tells rather, certain situations that I will be doing with in regards to my attack, the foot battle, and just, settling on the right, whether it's my right hand, my right kick, and everything in between. I think, exactly to your point, his chin, I'm definitely going to try and check it. That's his, I think, biggest weakness, and even to the point that you said regarding him thinking about it, he's kind of a little different. He's a little bit more reserved. He's moved away from his capoeira, throwing wild style, and he's trying to be a little bit more reserved and going for takedowns a lot more. I think that has to do with, like you said, he's been knocked out 4 times, and I'm going to make it 5.
Yeah, if you watch a football game, if you're the quarterback and you've been getting laid out, trust me, you're getting rid of that ball a little sooner. If you're a wide receiver going over the middle and you're getting hit, you're taking your eyes off the ball. If you're a NASCAR driver and you hit the wall a couple times, you're not going 200 miles. You're going 197. So, yeah, it sits in the back of everyone's mind. Elias Theodorou, our guest here on MMA Junkie Radio. We're talking about his fight with Cesar Ferreira. It's coming up here in about, I think, 6 weeks away, and it's in Canada. So Elias Theodorou will have a home game there. Cesar Ferreira will be traveling from Brazil. I think he's down in Florida, so maybe it's not a complete Brazil versus
he's at MMA Masters now.
That's right, yeah. All right, we'll turn it over to Goes in Las Vegas. Goes, what do you have for Elias Theodorou?
Elias, you mentioned you're 28, and we've been following your career, and I wanted to know roughly, where do you feel your body is at? Do you feel like you've entered your prime? You haven't hit your prime yet? Where do you feel like you're at?
I think mentally I'm in the best place that I've ever been. Since my first loss when we last talked, I moved to Montreal for my fight camps, and in many ways that has allowed me to be in a more focused area, because with Toronto, as much as I love the city that I'm from, in order to get the adequate training, I travel way too much. So now in Montreal, I save roughly, I want to say 17 hours in my week, and I'm just able to focus on my fighting. With me, in regards to my actual skill, I'm still playing catch up. I've been able to be successful jumping into mixed martial arts in any capacity at the age of 21. So I've only been doing this roughly 7 years. And in any capacity, didn't do kickboxing when I was a kid, no jiu-jitsu, no wrestling, none of that. I just had the tenacity to kind of say, hey, let's go for this. And a lot of that has to do with, again, the 10,000 hour mark for mastery doesn't necessarily mean 10 years. It's how much hours you put into it. And that's why I think in some regards I might not necessarily have fought as often, because I want to learn and I want to grow. My last fight was against a very tough individual named Sam Alvey. I outsmarted him. I showed him the difference between chess and checkers. I outstruck him 250, 260 to I think 40. And I also proved to myself that I can shut anyone's game down. I'm the smarter fighter in there. And the only difference moving forward, because even when you win, you have to go back to the drawing board. I think the difference was I was too focused on not making the same mistakes I made with Santos and on Sam in regards to holding on to something in regards to, let's say, the cage or something like that. And I wasn't able to, or I wasn't inclined to necessarily pull the trigger. Mm-hmm. I was so much stronger than Sam. I could, again, against the cage, looking back at the fight, when I put him there, I should have just bent his head over and just kneed him in the head like 10 times, because I could have done it. I was way stronger than him. With Cesar, I think he's going to be the classic, comes out strong the first round, and then he's going to start backpedaling away. In many ways, he is, I don't want to say a shell of himself, because he's evolving in his own right. I want to say that he's not necessarily as offensive if you put it on him. And I think in many ways, he, as in the 3-fight winning streak that he has, he was running around the cage a lot. I think if I'm able to be my dominant self, my pressure monster, my coaches dubbed me, I can break him mentally, physically, and chin check him like we talked about.
You know, you brought up the name Santos, and I remember hearing you say this before, that even though you lost that fight is still one of your favorite fights because of the lessons that came out of it. Can you kind of elaborate on that a little bit?
Yeah, 100%. He was on a 5-fight win streak. He was knocking everyone. He went on a 5-fight win streak. He topped off at, I think, 12th best in the world at one point. And that was, in many ways, my first bad day at work. And I know I'm biased, but in many ways, I think it could have come off of more or less maybe a draw, in the sense that I won the first, he won the last, and it could have been a 10-10 or whatever in the second, or a 9-9 or whatever. I can't remember how they technically do it. But with that being said, he threw everything but the kitchen sink at me, and at no point did I waver. I kept on going forward. And that, more importantly, showed myself, because prior to that, I never lost a round. And to know that when shit hits the fan, I at no point waver. And that's something that you can't really know unless it happens. And going on that 12-fight win streak, and then obviously the 2 in the house, so technically 14-fight win streak with no amateur background in many regards. When shit hit the fan, I kept on going. And although I'm a little biased, like I said, I think that it wasn't a 10-8 round that two of the referees gave me. I was able to go back to the drawing board and kind of say, hey, even at the worst point, it was still a very close fight. And that has given me basically more confidence. And once I got back into the cage with Sam, I realized, oh, wow, a loss isn't that big of a deal. Life moves on, and I'm able to become a better fighter because of it.
Elias, I like this chess master analogy. For one, do you play chess?
Yes, for sure. And I would even throw in a little bit of dancing, and I'm a phenomenal dancer as well. Because it's excessive dancing, and whoever leads wins.
It's true.
We were told high speed human chess is what you guys are playing. That's why when anybody attaches chess to it, I like it. Would you say Cesar Ferreira is also a chess player from what you've seen on video, or is he a checkers player?
I would say he's in many ways he is a chess player in the sense that he has his skill set. It's obvious that he's got long reach. He throws punches. He's gonna try and blast forward with a double and put me on my back and go for guillotine. He's good at evolving from the jiu-jitsu base that he has. Being Vitor Belfort's protege in some regards, as he's been dubbed, it has some benefits to it, and he's learned from that. But at the same time, he's no Vitor Belfort. I think we can bring up the chin. We can bring up the fact that he does in many ways run against the cage when put pressure onto him. And he's on a 3-fight win streak, but I would say the guys that he subbed and whatnot, they're tomato cans on the ground, and I'm no tomato can.
In what round do you predict checkmate will take place?
I think a second or third. I love going the distance, not in the sense of obviously a decision, but I love it. I love every second being in the cage. I love being a mixed martial artist, and I love every single second that I'm under those bright lights. I worked so hard for those 15 or less minutes, and I can't wait to share with everyone what I've done.
And lastly, what's your favorite checkmate move, whether it be a strike or a submission? What's your checkmate move? Favorite?
Yes. I think in many ways the favorite that I've had so far was the Roger Noveres fight. It was the most obvious example of how, in many ways, this is a dance. Once I broke his arm with that kick, you could totally tell with his body language and just the way he was holding himself that there was blood in the water. And it's just this instinct that kind of took over in the sense that I knew that he was done. And I went in, and I was even just talking about it with a bunch of my friends recently, where, like, again, all the crowd's cheering because they sense the finish is in the air, and it's just the crowd gets louder, and it just is build up, and it's the final inevitable finish. And I love the fact that this is going to be my 5th southpaw in the UFC, and I know everything there is about southpaws. And I've got a lot of awesome stuff in my toolkit that I've been working on.
Can't wait to see it. February 19th in Halifax, Nova Scotia, Canada. It's UFC Fight Night 105, headlined by Junior Dos Santos and Stefan Struve. Their part 2, Cesar Ferreira and Elias Theodorou. They'll be mixing it up in the co-main event. Elias, as always, it's great to talk to you. Thank you very much for the time. I hope you have a safe camp, and we'll be watching you fight in about 6 weeks or so.
Thank you, gentlemen. Always a pleasure.
All right. Have a good one. All right, folks, that's Elias Theodorou, and I want to give a touch of gloves to Zach P. for helping line that one up. Also, you can follow Elias Theodorou on Twitter. It's at Elias Theodorou. So just like his name, give him a follow. Let him know you heard him on the at MMA Junkie Radio Show. I'll spell out Theodorou, to be fair. It's the whole name is at ELIASTHEODOROU. So there you have it. Is Hal still on hold, Sam? Yes, he is. Let's put him on real fast since we have a couple minutes before this first hour winds up. What's up, Hal from Chicago?
Well, got a little little annoyed yesterday. I think I spent half the day arguing with people on Facebook. That's why I should probably just stay off of it. This whole Meryl Streep thing, don't confirm anybody who got bothered by that. Who cares what she thinks? She didn't even say anything wrong, I don't think. MMA is not an art. Get it out of your head. It's not an art, okay? Art is when you use your craft or your skill to produce something that is some kind of aesthetic representation of an abstract human concept. Love, peace, the war, whatever. MMA is two guys trying to use their skills, which are very artistic in a way, if you want to use that, but it's not. They're trying to disable each other using their skills. Some are very creative in doing it and very philosophical. That doesn't make it art. It's like saying the art of interviewing. Gigi is an artist in the way he interviews. You're not a fucking artist, okay? You know, I mean, it's great. But, you know, so what do you think about that?
Well, how about this? Is each individual sport or martial art that encompasses martial art, are any of them arts, is my question. No, they're disciplines. They're combat sports. They're combat disciplines or religions or philosophies or whatever you want to say. Again, the goal, for me, I'm with the goal. The goal is to defend yourself or disable someone else. Now, you can be very beautiful and philosophical in the way you do it. Not an art, my friend. Your goal is to protect or harm. That's it. You're not trying, unless your guard passes are some kind of your inner child breaking through the shackles of institutional oppression. This is my expression of that through my jiu-jitsu. You're not doing that, man. You go in there, you try to beat the guy. That's not art. Goes, what do you think?
I've seen fighters paint a picture in the cage in the ring, so I guess I disagree. I hear where he's coming from, though.
They weren't intending to do that, though.
You can do that with any.
That was by accident.
Nah,
Yeah.
man, that's preparation to do that.
They weren't. You gonna tell me Anderson was like, I'm gonna represent, you know, the state of affairs in MMA today and show them that a front kick to the face is my masterpiece. I'm gonna do that to Randy Couture. You know what I'm saying? I mean, there's game plans. That's just a game plan. It's not like him painting a canvas and shit. That's just hyperbole, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm. Well, I hear what you're saying, Hal, but I do think there are some of the skills and some of the moves I've seen that do feel artistic to me. Yeah, at the end of the day, there are two out there that slug it out, and it just looks like two cavemen who probably can't even speak a language. It's just fee, fi, fo, fum, swinging away because they know it hurts, and they know they're fighting over a slab of meat. But I don't know. I think the way that the sport's evolved, and there are very few moves that I guess I would call artistic, but you brought it up. When Anderson went right up the middle on Belfort, we hadn't seen anything like that. And the perfect execution to do that and knock another human being out, that was pretty amazing for me. So I think there are some times where I feel like I am watching.
You feel that way. I feel like this girl at the counter wants me, but she don't.
Artistic. I'm not necessarily going to call them artists, but I feel like I did see something artistic. But it takes a special move.
Yeah.
All right, brother. Thanks for calling in, my man. All right, folks, so this is the end of the first hour. Second hour, we'll have some more pockets to fill, so call in at 866-522-2846. But in a few moments, we'll be back, and we'll be back with Laura Sanko, correspondent for Invicta FC. Invicta FC 21 is happening this Saturday. We'll talk more about that when we come back.
When I was just a baby, my mama told
Junkie Radio Network. Hit us up on Twitter.com at MMA Junkie Radio. This is MMA Junkie Radio. Here are your hosts, Gorgeous George and Goes.
All right, we're going to jump right into it. We have our next guest ready to go. Goes by the name of Laura Sanko, co-hosted recently in our studio in the Mandalay Bay Race and Sportsbook. We had a lot of fun with her, and now she's back, and she's calling in. What we're going to talk about is Invicta FC 21, which takes place January 14th, that's this Saturday, in Kansas City, Missouri, and its headline bout is Megan Anderson versus Charmaine Tweet for the interim featherweight title. Joining us now on the hotline is Laura Sanko. Hi, Laura. How you doing?
I'm good, guys. How are you doing?
Doing great. Thanks for joining us again on the MMA Junkie Radio Show. You're on with George and Goes. I do want to start off with one thing, though. Well, obviously late, but, I don't think I think we can push it till January 15th and still wish someone a Happy New Year. So, Happy New Year. And
thank you very much.
The other thing, on one of your Instagram posts, you were talking about reflecting, 2016 and 2017, and I read it, and it was cool to read. But what I wanted to know was, when you're talking about, highs and lows, and was this more like Laura Sanko, the MMA correspondent? Was this more just in your personal life?
It was a mixture of both. I would say probably more my personal life, but personal and professional are often intertwined because one affects the other. So, yeah, it was a little smattering of both. But thank you for reading that. It was, like I said, it was kind of more cryptic platitudes for myself to look at next year and see what differences I was able to make. But I don't know. I like kind of summarizing something at the end of the year that I can look at the following year.
Goes and I had a good buzz on Saturday night. We were in Orange County with some buddies, and next thing you know, we were deleting 5 people from with the letter A from our address book, and I think we're supposed to hit B soon and just go through the whole alphabet. I don't know if we can get to 5 on every letter, but when I read your message, I thought, yeah, we're kind of going through the same thing over here as well.
I like it. Did you have a good New Year?
Yeah, it was rather boring but safe. Stayed at home and just kind of watched the countdowns on TV. Made sure my dog didn't flip out because of the fireworks show. But old Goes caught Sting over at the Cosmopolitan. He said it was a pretty good concert. I'll let him talk on that.
I've been told that it was a lot of fun.
Goes, you with us?
Yeah. You can hear me?
Oh, boy, no Goes. It's just Laura and I. Laura, you're there, right?
Goes.
No,
Goes. I'm here. Just you and I.
Oh, all right. Goes, you there?
Yeah, I'm here. You can't hear me?
Oh, you want to chime in here any second? Or?
I was saying I've been told that I had a really good time. I go through my phone and I look, and apparently I did have a good time. But, yeah, Sting was awesome, dude. I love
Do you remember the concert?
Yeah, I remember the beginning and the end. It's the middle that got me. But I love doing New Year's in Vegas because you can go out on the strip, do whatever you want. But I don't like ringing in the New Year's on the strip. I think it gets too crazy, so I try and plan for like a concert or something. You can ring in the New Year there. So it was fun. You should come out for a New Year, Laura Sanko.
Absolutely. I will go have these on the flights with you guys.
And what'd you do, by the way?
Absolutely nothing. I wish I had a really great story, but it sounds like my New Year's was about like yours. My dog doesn't flip out, but we had a pretty lame early night. Yeah, that was about it. But your reflection on the Sting concert reminds me of the summer when I went to the Guns N' Roses concert, which was life-changingly awesome, but also hard to remember at the same time.
No doubt. We've all been there. All right, so happening this Saturday on the UFC Fight Pass, 8 p.m. Eastern Time, it's the main card for Invicta FC 21. The headline bout there is an interim featherweight title. I was just talking to Goes in our audience earlier today. Bellator has something going on with the featherweights and a strap there. Yes. The UFC and now Invicta. Check out the featherweight division. The one I've kind of discounted as not being too deep.
You get a featherweight division, and you get a featherweight division. It was on
yeah. What do you think's happening with that? You think it's just a coincidence, or is there really that many quality 145-pounders out there to make these divisions thrive?
I think the landscape is fascinating right now. When I sit back and think about it, and I'm not saying this based on any insider knowledge or anything, this is just Laura Sanko thinking, I feel like they really wanted Ronda to be, or at least have a really good shot at being a 2-divisional champion like Conor, and have that be part of her tremendous legacy. Obviously, that kind of went wrong. I think they were planning on her winning and then rematching Holly at 45, and then boom, I'm a huge star again, and then the Cyborg fight sells millions and millions of pay-per-views, and then maybe she would call it quits after that. But all of these plans are going off the rails with Ronda losing and with Cyborg facing a potential, USADA violation. It's just really interesting to see what's going on with the featherweights. I don't think it's a super deep division, but it is deeper than people might think. I mean, it's kind of, women's MMA in general is still very much a niche community, but when you're in it, you're aware of what's going on. So if they were able to pull together all of the good 145ers out there, you would have a great division. Now, whether they can pull from Bellator and Invicta, I mean, they've proven that they can pull from Invicta, so I don't think there's going to be any problem there. But if they can pull from Bellator as well, I think you'd have a great division. And Megan Anderson in particular now has an excellent shot, if she's able to defeat Charmaine and become the interim title holder, and Chris is on the shelf, then, who's next in line to step into the UFC and fight whoever wins Holly Holm versus Jermaine Durandamy. So it's really cool to see what's going on, honestly.
Yeah, I like it when the stakes are high like that. I did want to ask you one other thing, Laura, as well. As far as Invicta is concerned, you are an Invicta FC correspondent. You do a great job with them, but you being, kind of a local there and having been with Invicta for a while, are you part of any committee or board that makes any of these types of decisions? Do they ever ask for your input, or are you more just you work on fight night and that's it?
Yeah, it's more the latter. I've got a really good relationship with Shannon, and, she and I go have dinner, a couple times a year. But other than that, I'm not, an employee of Invicta. I'm a contract laborer. So, which I'm actually happy about because I feel more comfortable. I don't ever want people to feel uncomfortable about the fact that I'm so close with Megan. But I'm not. I have absolutely no say in the matchmaking or anything along those lines. All I do is some preview shows, things like what I'm doing right now, and then the post-fight interviews. So I have no influence. I'm just kind of a face.
Laura Sanko, our guest here on MMA Junkie Radio. I'll send it back to Vegas. Goes, what do you have for fancy?
Laura, 2 girls that are on the card, they're not fighting each other, but they stick out to me because they're undefeated. They're 4-0, Aspen Ladd, Kaylee Robbins. What can you tell us about them and what a victory here, where that could place them?
Aspen Ladd, I'm a big, big fan of hers. She, I believe this will be her second fight at bantamweight. She started out as a flyweight, and man, she looks good at this higher weight class. Obviously, it's not like she was looking bad at the other one. She never lost, but she's a very well-rounded fighter. I mean, that's the story with a lot of these fighters, these female fighters that are still early in their career now. You don't see, oh, she's a striker, oh, she's a jits player. I mean, really everybody coming up at this point is pretty well-rounded, and Aspen is one of those people. I will say that her ground game is exceptional. She marches forward with her striking. She meets you in the center of the cage, and then she generally takes you down, and it just maintains top position and does an excellent job at that. Kaylee Robbins, this will be her Invicta debut, so I don't know tons and tons about her. I do know she's up there in Milwaukee, Wisconsin with the great group of people up at Rufus Sport. She has, I'm trying to think, she went 3-0 as an amateur, and I know she had some really quick KO wins, but I want to say more than anything, she is a jiu-jitsu player as well. I know she's got a purple belt, and I'm looking forward to see what she can do against Jody, who is, definitely a tough test for her. So,
Laura, a topic that keeps popping up on our show is Meryl Streep. I never thought I'd say those words, but it's been nonstop. Can we get your thoughts on this? I know you'll ground us all, right?
Can I just say, I'm so thankful that you asked me. I was afraid I was going to be on here too late and it would be old news, but I've been thinking a lot about it, and 2 things. Number one, we all should just be super thankful that she called it MMA and not UFC or cage fighting. And I know that sounds kind of silly, but to be honest, that is actually kind of a big accomplishment when you think about it. I don't think that would have been the case, that Meryl Streep knew what the heck MMA was, even a year ago, 2 years ago. on the other side of that coin, I think it was, it's just a really ignorant comment. But the fact is that, guys, MMA is not for everybody. It sounds like football's not for her. MMA's not for her. I don't know, probably monster truck shows are not for her. NASCAR, I could make some other guesses. And that's fine. That's her taste. I think it's a little silly that she chose such a public forum to throw MMA under the bus like that, because it felt like her connotation was not only that, okay, if we take away diversity, we're just going to be left with these really lowbrow sports, was kind of what I took from it. And MMA is probably one of the most diverse sports I can think of, first of all. And second of all, it's just kind of tacky to assume that the fans of any given sport are of a certain class, so to speak. So, I don't know. It was just pretty silly, to be honest with you. It's Oh, no, go ahead. I was going to say, a side note to that, though. A side note to that, I feel like there is an opportunity, and I'm doing a shameless plug right now. I'm not even going to try to hide it. I feel like there's an opportunity for the MMA community to react to that at the MMA Awards. And I think it would be an excellent idea to create a new category for post-fight interview of the year. I feel like Tanya Evinger would be a clear standout. And for her to win would show that the MMA community is supportive of an openly gay fighter, therefore diversity. Just my 2 cents.
That is an excellent point. And you're right, the World MMA Awards are coming, and that was cool to see a lot of your fans supporting you, saying that you should have been up for Personality of the Year, and I saw that you definitely appreciated that love.
Yeah, no, that was. I'm still amazed that people know my name sometimes. So that was really cool to see.
When's your next UFC gig, by the way?
I'm not slated until Brazil in March. I've got a little bit of a break here. I'll be doing, obviously, Invicta this Saturday, and then Invicta in March, as well as the UFC in March. So they have kind of a slow first quarter over there, and then my boss was saying that through the summer and through the fall, it'll be a little bit more of a regular rhythm for me. And there's some other things I might end up doing for them as well, so we'll see about that.
All right, we'll keep in touch. And in the meantime, we'll definitely be tuning in on Saturday. Invicta FC 21, you got the interim featherweight title belt, and like you said, some undefeated fighters that are definitely, they have their hands full on Saturday, but they're possible stars to keep an eye on in Kaylee Robbins and Aspen Ladd. We've seen Aspen Ladd grow up through Tough Enough in Las Vegas, so we're definitely fans, and we agree with you. She's a beast. She really gets down, and she's fearless out there. She's really, really tough. So I'm a huge fan of hers.
Yeah, she's fantastic. I'm a big fan of her as well. I mean, another fighter to keep an eye on, I think, is Pannie Kianzad. She was undefeated until last year when she came up against Tanya in, a really tough defeat. But before then, she was just one of those fighters that was rocketing to the top. And so it'll be interesting to see if she can turn it back around and get that momentum back. She's a super exciting fighter to watch, though.
For sure. Thanks, Laura, for the time. We really appreciate it.
Thank
Always
you.
great catching up with you.
Thanks, guys. I'll talk
pleasure.
to you soon.
All right, we'll see you. Folks, give her a follow on Twitter at Laura_Sanko. That works for her Instagram as well. Really, really cool lady that we got to know in 2016, and we definitely look forward to talking to her throughout the year. She does work for the UFC and Invicta. All right, I think we're going to go back-to-back with Cody Bollinger. Is he ready to go yet, guys, back in New York, or are we still going to – do we still have to wait for them to call back?
He's good.
Do you know, Goes?
Yeah, it seems like he's good.
All right. Cool. All right, so let's talk to Cody Bollinger. He's a local SoCaler like ourselves. He's from Rancho Cucamonga, just north of us, being from the OC originally. Young cat still, man. He's got 25 fights, Goes, and he's still the ripe old age of 25. So definitely a high-paced volume fighter when it comes to the amount of fights he's had in his career, which started off in 2006 as a young cat fighting in the high school days. Probably had to sign a permission slip. He joins us now on MMA Junkie Radio. The Cali Cowboy, Cody Bollinger. What's up, Cody?
What's up, man? How's it going?
Good. Is that how you pull off those early fights, with a permission slip back in the day?
Basically, just no commission, man. There's no such thing as a commission back then. So the fight in Costa Rica, my first fight, and after that, communicated and Gladiator Jones kind of gave me the go-ahead to go ahead and fight. So it worked out nicely, man. Good timing.
How about that? 6 fights and you still weren't out of high school. Getting down. Respect.
Yeah, it was fun.
Yeah. All right. Well, you get to stay local for this fight, Bellator 170. You probably maybe a 45-minute ride from your neck of the woods down to the Forum in Inglewood, California. One more outside of MMA type question, at least as far as X's and O's. You do realize you'll be fighting when there's a lot of rich history from the L.A. Lakers. Were you an L.A. Lakers fan growing up as a kid?
I'll probably piss some people off, man, but I'm not really a fan of basketball at all, to be honest.
Okay.
I grew up in SoCal, so I guess I'm a Lakers fan, you know, but
yeah,
I couldn't name more than maybe Kobe or something.
Well, back then, that's when they had Magic Johnson and Kareem, so Kobe's more of a staple center guy, but you're going to dig it. They redid the Forum. There's a lot of history there. A lot of great boxing has taken place there as well, so hopefully you all feel that. Recently, a UFC was there as well. That's when Bisping took the belt from Luke Rockhold, and Dan Henderson had a great fight. So lots of combat sports history there in that building too.
Heck yeah, it's going to be a good night, man. It's a great venue, and I feel it's a pretty big card for Bellator, so I'm happy to be on it for sure.
You got Henry Corrales in front of you. Give us your mini version of the scouting report on Henry Corrales and why you're excited to take this fight, where you think you're stronger than Henry Corrales.
I mean, he's tough, man. He's a tough, hard-headed, good chin, old school Mexican boxer type of fighter, in my opinion. And he'll take a punch, or he'll take 5 punches just to land one. He's a stubborn striker, in my opinion. He's got really good basics. I don't think he's got anything that I haven't seen already. But the dude hits like a truck, and he can take a punch. So definitely got to be careful in this fight. I think he's a little slower than I am. I know he doesn't have the wrestling I have. We'll see about the grappling. I'll push the pace and see where we can take this fight.
Another thing I wanted to ask you is, have you been able to take advantage of the many different gyms in California? That would obviously present many looks, different views from different trainers, different training partners, or have you kind of maybe stayed more just in the Inland Empire?
I mean, I've gotten to travel and train all over the world. Thankfully, I've been blessed enough to do that. Gone up to Jackson's about 5 times to get ready for camps. We have a lot of guys come into Millennia from other gyms. So as far as getting different looks, man, I've trained with, just about every style you can train with. And I think that's definitely helped. Like I said, I don't think Henry's going to show me anything in there that I haven't seen before. And a part of that is because, SoCal is a really big hub for MMA. And I train with a lot of different guys. So that's definitely one advantage I think I hold.
It sure is. If you go a little bit east, you got, training partner like a Cub Swanson, for example. I know a lot of people come to Palm Desert with him. I know down in Huntington, there's a lot of the Brazilians over at King's MMA. Down in San Diego, there's the Alliance Gym. And it almost seems like there's about 20 quality gyms that one can get a look at, all the way from L.A. to the Inland Empire to San Diego.
Yeah, it's endless, man. We've got a lot of top guys down here in SoCal. It makes for good local cards.
Yeah, for sure. Cody Bollinger, our guest here on MMA Junkie Radio. He'll be fighting on January 21st at what used to be called the Fabulous Forum. Now it's just the Forum in Inglewood, California, for the Bellator 170 card. His opponent that night will be Henry Corrales. All right, let me send it back to Vegas. Goes, what do you have for Cody Bollinger?
Cody, Henry's back is to the wall in this fight. Do you expect him to be a little bit more aggressive because of that and possibly even reckless?
I hope so. I mean, he's lost his last, 2 or 3 fights, right?
Yeah, I think it's his last 3.
He joined Bellator. Yeah, he's 0-3 in Bellator. I mean, not that he's been fighting bums or anything. The guy's fought top talent at Bellator, I'll give him that. But he knows if he loses this fight, he's getting cut and he's not fighting Bellator anymore. And he's going to have to go fight for King of the Cage for the next 5 years again. I know he doesn't want to do that. I know he's training hard. I know he's going to be ready for this fight. If he comes out over anxious or feeling like he's got all that pressure, it's better for me. I hope so. I hope he comes in swinging as hard as he can. I'm going to make a miss. If he's going to be there flat-footed, just, trying to get a knockout because all the pressure that's on him, even better for me. He's got a good amount of fights, though. I think he's a little smarter than that. But we'll find out, adrenaline or something may get to him to where mentally he just, he shuts down and just goes into kill mode and doesn't really think too much. And, that would be an ideal situation for me. But, we'll see. You never know till you're in there.
We've been doing our show for just about 10 years now, and your name has come up since day one. I remember the King of the Cage guys talking about you. And one thing that I have noticed, because we've been to some of your fights, is you have a large amount of people that travel to your fights and support you. How many people are you expecting at this fight?
A good amount, man. Probably a couple hundred, to be honest. I've got a great support system and great fan base, man. A lot of people are behind me, even more so this camp. It's a big fight. It's going to open up a lot of opportunities for me. So I got all the family and friends and all the fans and everybody behind me on this one, and I feel better than ever. I've got some new things that I've been doing this camp, and I'll be honest, usually around this time, man, I'm feeling weak. I'm getting close to weight, and I'm drained. I'm losing muscle mass, and I'm more focusing on sweating and getting the weight off than I am preparing mentally for this fight. This camp's a different story. I feel superhuman almost, man. It's incredible. I don't gas out. I can push the pace harder and longer than I ever have before. It's gonna be something fun to watch. I promise you guys.
Yeah, top to bottom, the card is. We got locals like Keith Berry, also from the Inland Empire. He's going to be battling Kevin Casey. Some big dudes in Jack May and Jack Cryer. Chinzo Machida's back, taking on Jamar Ocampo. Derek Anderson, who's become a beast, man. He's taking on veteran Derek Campos. Your boy, Georgie Karakayan, against Emmanuel Sanchez. Halleck Gracie is doing his thing again versus Hisaki Kato. And how about this, guys? Brennan Ward versus Paul Daly, man. That's going to be a nice setup for the main event, which, of course, is Tito Ortiz versus Chael Sonnen. But seriously, go out there and support at the Forum. They've redone it. They remodeled it. It looks great. Everybody's going to have a good time down there. Everybody from SoCal should come out and support. And, Cody, I know we'll be seeing your large contingent because we've seen them everywhere, man. So thank you for squeezing us in. I know you got to get back to training, but thanks for doing the interview, and good luck with the rest of your camp, and we'll see you in a few weeks out in L.A.
Hey, of course, guys. Thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it.
All right, take care. We'll see you. So Cody Bollinger can be followed on Twitter at Cody Bollinger, CodyBollinger. Want to thank CJ and Danny for that. We're going to take a break now. And when we come back, it'll be a nice run of calls and touching on the last bit of news that I had for the early part of the show. Still some big ones that I want to talk to Goes about. You're listening to MMA Junkie Radio on Sirius XM, Rush 93. Stay close.
Oh, my.
They were forged from the same ball sack, but act as though they've never met. They are the brothers Garcia, Gorgeous George and Goes.
Want to do some Facebook Live shout-outs here. Thank you all for tuning in via this platform. A lot of people are digging it, and I'm digging doing the interaction. Sometimes I can do it during the show. Most of the time I get in there after the show and at least tell you we were looking or we appreciate your comment. Antonio Jesus Marchena Cisneros says Buenas noches. That's because he's a little bit ahead out there, I believe. Well, I don't know why I'm assuming this. I guess Spain. It can't be in South America because it would only be afternoon. So I'm thinking maybe in Spain is where Antonio Jesus Marchena Cisneros is located. Also, Chasm from Toronto is asking where I'm at. I'm in Costa Mesa. He says, don't be scared, homie. I'm not. Although I am going to Disneyland later, so shows you how tough I am. I'm going to lose some street cred there. I know it, but you just got to do what you got to do. When you're a SoCaler, every so often, Disneyland has to enter your life. Jeremy Deschner says, guess you could date ugly girls. I don't know if he's talking to me or you guys, but I think we both agree. Send your sister over. What up, you dater? Who could beat Miocic? Jazzy Carino wants to know. I don't know, Jazzy. He's looking tough right now. But someone who can hit hard and, someone that gets after you and puts it all out there, kind of throws the game plan a little out the window. I'm talking about someone like a Ben Rothwell. He's finished 33 out of 36 fights, so he at least goes for it. I don't think he'll, if the longer the fight goes, obviously I don't think it behooves Ben, but early on, man, he's throwing everything, including the kitchen sink, at you. So it'd be nice to see him take a world title. Tony Clark says if Maynard got the rematch, Thompson deserved the rematch. He's talking about fighters who fought to a draw. Mm-hmm. I'd have to go back and see if there was anybody waiting in the wings at that time. But it's a good comparison. But Damian Maia is so clear-cut just waiting in the wings that I think they could have honestly ran that one back. I don't know. Don McGuire says, love the show. Well, thank you for tuning in, Don. Thank you for the kind words. Richard Giles says he subscribed to a Marco from Waco podcast, and I informed him that he's part of the AMP radio guys. So give them a listen. I think you'll hear Marco from time to time, maybe part of the breakdowns. I know I've heard him on there because he's been on there when they've had me on as a guest. Anyway, I'll do some more before the show ends. Right now we got some callers to get to. So let's talk to Dan in Oregon. What's up, Dan?
What's happening? Hey, I'm pretty sure Pettis was waiting in the wing while that lightweight kind of was figuring itself out with that draw and everything. Pettis ended up getting a loss, and Henderson got the fight, all that nonsense. Yo, you let it in with that E40 Tell Me When to Go song, and I was just going through the fight pass vault yesterday, and I was watching Mousasi versus Munoz, and Munoz came out to that song, so that kind of triggered that. But that kind of leads into my call, man. If you pay attention to how fighters get signed these days, they kind of start out on Fight Pass, and then they work their way up to the prelims on Fox Sports 1, and then hopefully, they get on the pay-per-views. And then I just realized that there's so many fights out there that the casual fans have never even saw just because they were only on Fight Pass. And plenty of our champions, like Tyron Woodley knocking out Stun Gun over in Japan, they never saw that. B. Hathaway, I think in the Philippines, they never saw that either. What about Wonder Boy fought Ellenberger on a Sunday, right after that big card, 194 I think it was. Not many people saw that fight. And I was just thinking, as the UFC kind of throws this UFC 196 on free TV, you guys got to see these amazing cards. I think we need to do that with a lot of these Fight Pass fights, whether it's on Fox Sports 1 or Big Fox, whatever. We just need to get them out there to more of these fans. Because, if you don't have a Fight Pass, you've never seen Bisping versus Anderson Silva. How crazy is that? So if you guys want to touch on that and then maybe throw out some of your favorites that the casuals should check out.
Right on, brother. No, I agree. The Fight Pass has been great to promote a lot of the cards in different cities, different fighters that are being involved. Some of them have taken some for the team. Anderson Silva, I thought, would never do a Fight Pass, but he did. And that turned out to be huge for him, huge for Bisping, huge for Fight Pass mostly. But I guess my point with Elias was the UFC is really looking for stars. And I know the matchmaker, the former matchmaker, loved a good record. Elias is 13-1. And I know the promotion loves people ooze charisma, and have something that the fans can attach to. And I think Elias kind of fits that bill. Therefore, I was expecting him to eventually get more into being a pay-per-view or Fox guy. But in no way am I saying that being on Fox Sports 1 or Fight Pass is bad. If you can just get on a card, that's great. Because honestly, if you do the math, the average is like 2 fights per year for anyone. So if you can just get on there and keep fighting, that's great. But hopefully Elias does make it to pay-per-view or to Big Fox if he's going to continue. So that way, when it's time to cash in and fight these big fights, he has that audience waiting for you. I do want to throw one other question that came out here during the show, and we've kind of gotten a version of it, and then we'll get to the next caller. Thanks, Dan, for calling in. Gavin McCarran says, at the end of 2017, who's the most and least likely to be champion? We've kind of done that, but he just wants to pinpoint it to one on both sides. So real quick, which champion do you think is the most likely to hang on to his or her belt by the end of 2017?
I would say Demetrius Johnson holds on to his belt. And
okay,
actually, you know what?
I
No,
think
you
it's
know what?
Joanna.
Go ahead.
I think it's Joanna because I think Demetrius can get threatened a little bit by Joby Kenobi. The second time was a whitewash, but the first time was a split decision. Whereas Joanna, she's been hit like by Carolina and a couple girls. I think Letourneau maybe rocked her a little bit, but for the most part, man, once she really gets in cruise control, she looks almost unbeatable. Now, I would almost say the same thing about Amanda Nunes. She's had a hand in retiring at least one fighter, and now it looks like maybe not Ronda, but made at least Ronda think about it. But Pena and Shevchenko are both pretty tough, so I backed off there. Aldo's an all-time great, but Holloway's a beast. You never know there. McGregor's going to have his hands full with the winner of Nurmagomedov or Ferguson. So I progressed all the way through, and I thought the most unbeatable was Joanna. How about most beatable of all the champions, guys, men and women?
The most beatable, I would say, I think I'm going to go with Michael Bisping or Stipe Miocic, just because heavyweights, man, they just hit so hard. It's so easy.
Yeah, and they both have beasts waiting in the wings. Like solid contenders that more than likely will have a good shot at taking them down. You're going off what the odds that'll be created, the fights that they've had. I mean, Romero, Jacare, Boussassi, those are some great fighters. And then Miocic will probably have to face a Verdum, a Kane, a Rothwell, a Junior, Dos Santos. Somebody's going to rise to the occasion. He'll have 3 fights. So I think I agree with you there as well, Goes.
Going back to
the phone calls.
George, really quick, going back to, because we didn't finish all of Dan's questions. Fights that you haven't probably seen because they were Fight Pass fights. I would say number one on that list has got to be Marco Polo Reyes and Dong Hyun Kim at UFC 199. That was even in the running for Fight of the Year that was getting tossed around, and that was on a Fight Pass. Awesome. It was the first fight of the night. And then Caraway and Aljamain Sterling was fun, and I remember that was on I think that was that headline, the Fight Pass card. So those are 2.
Yeah, and wasn't Dos Anjos and Alvarez a title fight on Fight Pass?
Yeah, I think it was.
Yeah, and so it wasn't a classic, but to see a title change hands on Fight Pass, and then to just see, because Dos Anjos did have some good moments prior to him getting knocked out, but I like fights that kind of go back and forth. I like a title changing hands, to be able to witness it, especially live, but if not, obviously to catch it one way or another. I'm going to catch them all because I watch all the fights, but the casual fan that just happened to tune in and give Fight Pass a chance, I thought that would have been a classic for them as well.
Mm-hmm.
Let's move on to Bob in Calgary. What's up, Bob? How you doing?
Boys, if you don't mind, I'd like to just expand a bit on your Gianna, the 115-pound champion. Like, she's so gangster that she's going out looking for her own opponents and bringing them into the UFC. So, guys, my question to you, do you know any champion that goes out and looks for their own opponent because she knows she needs help?
Well, what is she doing exactly?
Well, her last opponent, she went and told the UFC that they had to sign this girl because she knew that was her biggest opponent out there. Yeah. Do you know any other champion that's gone out and said, listen, there's a cat out there and I want to fight him?
Yeah,
Nobody does that.
I remember Chuck Liddell did something similar, where when he was calling out Vanderlei and vice versa. But you're right; it's very rare.
I guess.
True enough. That's just my vote. She's not losing that title, guys. That's going to be around her waist for a long time. I guess my second question to you guys: the Double A, Triple A Association, they just signed off with Brendan Shaw. I think that's an amazing sign for them. Who do you think's next for them to sign up?
I don't know why we didn't think of just
The
Double A,
MMA,
Triple A.
They
I
just
like
added
that.
Brendan Schaub, is what you're saying?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Well, I mean, add anybody at this point. They said they had a lot of fighters waiting in the wings, and they also said that through the holidays, a couple weeks into 2017, they may be making some announcements. So, yeah, Brendan's got a very popular show. He's very vocal. So, yeah, I would say that's a huge signing for them. But who else? I want to see belt wearers also join the cause, because that's what's going to move things.
For me, I'd like to see Marco Kokop. He just retired this weekend. Well, if things go badly, the guy is so well spoken. He's been in this sport for God knows how long. Someone in there, like get someone that's not only in the UFC, but someone that the UFC has made money off of. Guys, thanks a lot.
Well, all right. Thanks, Bob. They're only committed to fighters that are in the UFC. And you ask, well, how's Brendan Schaub in there? I think Brendan, his contract was frozen once he elected to retire. And if he were to come back, it would be with the UFC. Whereas if Crow Cop were to come back, I don't think he would come to the UFC, because otherwise he wouldn't have fought Verizon. But, yeah, I hear what you're saying, Bob. We'd love to have veterans join it, but I thought they were clear from the very beginning where they said they wanted to come after. They wanted to sign UFC fighters first, or exclusively now. So I think that's why it's working that way. Now, maybe they'll spread their wings and change things. I don't know. All right, we're going to take this last break of the show. You're listening to MMA Junkie Radio on Sirius XM Rush 93. We'll take a few more calls when you come back. You can get in the queue at 866-522-2846. See you in a few.
can drink Mentos-flavored Diet Coke without their stomachs giving a single fuck. They are Gorgeous George and Goes. And this is MMA Junkie Radio.
All right, we're coming down the home stretch of another fine edition of MMA Junkie Radio. Big shout out to Chris and Sam for making it work today. Danny's out sick. He'll be back tomorrow. But one way or another, the show happens. And even though we went down to the wire there, I just had a great feeling that somebody was going to go, guys, you there? And we got it going. I'm in Costa Mesa, Goes in Las Vegas. The guys are back in New York. Want to thank them now before we run out of time. Our guests today were Elias Theodorou, Laura Sanko, and Cody Bollinger. Bollinger fights at Bellator 170 on January 21st versus Henry Corrales. Theodorou fights February 19th, I believe. I'll go back and check that. It's Cesar Ferreira at UFC Fight Night 105. Laura Sanko will be working for Invicta FC as Invicta FC presents the 21st edition of their fight promotion with an interim featherweight title belt on the line this Saturday night. That one's on the UFC Fight Pass. Tomorrow we'll be talking to Georgie Karakanyan, Felice Herrig, Jeff Sherwood, and maybe Tony Ferguson as well. So it should be a fun show. We'll finish up with just a couple more things. I want to repeat something I started with earlier. One, check out UFC 207 Thrill and Agony video. Gut-wrenching reactions from Ronda Rousey's corner. You can see her mom and her sister just, oh man, not feeling it. And then you can see an emotional Team Alpha Male. Tears being shed by Cody Garbrandt, Uriah Faber, and some of the guys in the back. You see Andre Fili and Danny Castillo. Really meant a lot for that guy to get that belt. Not only that, but to knock down the monumental beast that Dominic Cruz has been, not just towards that division, 135 pounds that he's ruled over for so many years, but he's really gotten one over on the Team Alpha Male for a while, so it was not nice for them to knock down that beast.
Yeah.
Now, last thing I wanted to say is we do have... Oh, let me do a quick plug. It looks like Elias Theodorou, which I went in the Facebook comments, and a lot of people were saying, I like the way this guy talks. I like the way this guy sounds. Looks like he's going to be part of a podcast. If you go to FightfulMMA.com, looks like Showdown Joe Ferraro is hosting a Fightful MMA podcast, and I meant to ask Elias about this, but he came onto the show a little bit later than we expected, so I was afraid that we were going to run out of time, so I didn't get a chance to talk about it. But it looks like he may be one of the guest hosts that will be a part of that. Also, the World MMA Awards, the nominees are out, and Ben Fowlkes is up for Journalist of the Year. Give him a vote. He does a great job writing for USA Today Sports and MMA Junkie, doing his videos, he's got his own podcast, the Co-Main Event Podcast, the Twitter Mailbag. I think he does an awesome job. He comes on our show from time to time, too, and talks news, shoots his shit with us. So I think he's very, very talented, and I think he deserves to win that category, although he's up against some stiff competition. Another favorite of mine, Brett Okamoto, is up there. So good luck to Ben Fowlkes. MMA Junkie's up for Media Source of the Year. We'd appreciate your vote. If you like what we do, give us a pat on the back, man. Give us that vote.
Man, make it easy.
Come down. I know these. I think this is one of the categories that's really, really close.
Make it easy and just look at it this way. You're on a desert island and you can only get your news from one source. Where do you go? If that ain't us, I can live with it. But I'm pretty sure it's us.
Yeah. I'll tell you some of the other nominees. Charles Mass Fighter of the Year, Bisping, Cerrone, Garbrandt, McGregor, and Miocic. The first thing I thought of was, well, where's Amanda Nunes? But then the next category is Female Fighter of the Year. My question is, can a female win the Charles Mass Lewis Fighter of the Year, or she can only win the Female Fighter of the Year?
I think she can only win the female.
As the Male Fighter of the Year.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right.
No, it does say awarded to the leading male mixed martial artist. Huh. Because I think a female could be Fighter of the Year, honestly. That's how I treated it when we were talking about MMA Junkie and what we were doing here.
Yeah, and she has a good case.
Oh, yeah. Those five, by the way, are Chris Justino, Angela Hill, Joanna Jędrzejczyk, Angela Lee, and Amanda Nunes. But I think Nunes had the best year for the females. For the males, I thought it was Miocic. Breakthrough fight of the year, Yair Rodriguez, Cody Garbrandt, Dooho Choi, Derek Lewis, and Michael Venom Page. I think Garbrandt and Lewis are really close, except Garbrandt won a world title, so I think you have to roll with him.
Yeah, Cody sticks out. I think he's the front runner.
International fight of the year, Bisping, Jędrzejczyk, McGregor, Mousasi, and Nurmagomedov. I would say that Bisping probably wins that. It says awarded to the leading mixed martial artist from outside the Americas for his or her contribution to the sport, both in and out of the ring or octagon. I'm more of the criteria being about what they do in the ring or octagon.
Mm-hmm.
So he won a world title and defended it. I think he wins this one. McGregor's a beast. He's done a lot for the sport, but he lost the fight, and that kind of carries a lot of weight for me. Fight of the year, we have Lawler Condit, Swanson Choi, Bisping Silva, McGregor Diaz 2, Chandler Henderson. I went with Lawler Condit. I think Swanson Choi is up there, as is Chandler and Henderson. The other two were great fights, of course, otherwise they wouldn't be there, but I thought the other three stood out. How about you?
I think it has to go to Lawler and Condit, but when it comes to voting, especially in this situation, a lot of it is the what have you done for me lately, and that the Swanson Choi fight just might be the one that sticks right in your brain. I mean, go back to Lawler Condit. I mean, that was a while ago. People may have already started to forget that. You got Benson and Chandler. I mean, these are pretty fresh fights, so I could maybe see one of these slipping by.
Knockout of the year, Anthony Johnson versus Glover Teixeira, Lando Venata versus John McDessie, Michael Page versus Evangelista Santos, Yair Rodriguez against Andre Fili, Michael Chandler versus Patricky Frady. Look, they were all spectacular, but I've never seen anything like Michael Page's knee literally caving in a skull. I think that one just fits sensational. They were all sensational, but that was the most sensational.
That's the one I voted for, but like I said, this is a different beast, and I'm curious if maybe Michael Venom Page's video may have sat wrong with some people who may have normally voted for him and then said, you know what, I'm over this guy, and vote for someone else.
You might be right. Submission of the year, Ben Rothwell versus Josh Barnett, Nate Diaz versus Conor McGregor, Miesha Tate versus Holly Holm, Mackenzie Dern versus Montana Stewart, Thiago Moses versus David Castillo. I broke it down like this. I thought Miesha's being for a world title was huge and clutch, too. She knew she was losing that fight. She knew she had to get a finish, and she did. Except she didn't do it over what's known as a submission wizard in Holly Holm. Nate Diaz didn't do it over a submission wizard in Conor McGregor. But he was getting, pummeled at one point in that fight, and he came back and did his thing. Dern's was fascinating because she had two submissions being applied at the same time, it seemed like. But what I liked, was that I think Barnett is a stalwart. I think he's awesome in the submission game. And he got submitted by another big guy in Ben Rothwell. And so that's kind of where I give credit to, because it was a great submission, the go-go choke, but it was a great submission against a great submission artist.
Yeah, that's what stands out for me. I mean, it's just, I feel like Miesha Tate could fight Holly Holm again, and that could very well, we've just seen her in bad situations before. I don't know, but you may never see that happen to Josh Barnett. The guy is on top of it, but somehow Ben was able to catch him.
There's more categories. We'll go over them tomorrow, including comeback of the year, upset of the year, coach of the year, the Sean Tompkins coach of the year, I stand corrected, trainer of the year, gym of the year, referee of the year, ring card girl of the year, leading man, best promotion, personality of the year, analyst of the year. The list goes on and on. Go to MMAJunkie.com, and we'll lead you towards the World MMA Awards website, which I believe is WorldMMAAwards.com. Sorry, I closed the window. You can go in there and vote. Again, we'd appreciate your vote towards our boy Ben Folks for Journalist of the Year and MMA Junkie for Best Media Source of the Year. Again, thank you to our guests today, Elias Theodorou, Laura Sanko, and Cody Bollinger. And we'll be back tomorrow with Georgie Karkanyan, Felice Herrick, and Jeff Sherwood. Shout out to Chris and Sam. They did a great job. Goes, you were awesome. I took it to another level. I was fantastic. So we'll see you all tomorrow with another edition of MMA Junkie Radio. Until then, be champions and go Man U.